just to throw one on there.
Someone in the chat asked, are we doing the comic book or the Photoshop mock-up or the presentation, or are we choosing?
I guess I hadn't even mentioned that to your class. Yeah, it's the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So the whole PowerPoint, and I'm showing you this so you can use it if you wish. You do not have to. But yeah. Sorry, everybody. Was it this class or the other class that wanted to do the PowerPoint? You guys wanted
No,
to do
we
the PowerPoint.
wanted to.
Yeah,
do
we want to do
the
PowerPoint. I mean, we want to know how to.
The other class was just the opposite. Everybody in that class wanted to do the other, and I was like, I was
Really?
almost tempted to let them do, let them do that and you guys do this. But at midpoint, those that are judging and looking at everybody's stuff, they want consistency. They don't want to have to look at all this stuff, and there's enough variation between the same things without having 6 of the same things variable, anyway. So you guys won.
It's the consistent inconsistency.
Yes. All right, so I need an image to put on here. So I'm going to let's see. I can get it from here, but let's just do. Create a new layer, paste that in. It's not very big, is it?
That's where I have problems with my image, because it became all pixelated and weird when it came in that small.
I think once you hit the check mark, that usually
Yeah.
itself out.
Yeah, it usually pixelates out just to allow for easier, allow your processor. It doesn't take as much to process it. So, and then it'll bring it out, bring it back. Photoshop's pretty good at building back. Okay, so if I do this, I am going to take this and right click in its layer and convert to smart object. Okay, so now it is a smart object. And I'm going to Control T. And distort. I right clicked and hit distort. Chose distort. Okay, so I'm going to get this in there approximately. And it isn't pretty at this point. Try to get size in there to some degree. And hit enter. All right, so the question is now, how do we get this curve in here? If we what's it doing? It's thinking. I don't want that. Okay, so if I double click on that icon on that layer, it actually opens up what I have here. If I need to make changes and things of this nature, because it's a smart object, it opens it up as its own file. And actually, I don't need it right now. I'm going to go back. That's not what I wanted. Okay, so we're going to go back to here. Control T again for transform. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to warp this time. The warp is going to break it up into sections, and if I grab that corner, notice I get my Bezier curve handle. Okay, just like Illustrator, we should know how to do these, how to handle these curves pretty well. All right, bring this in to where I can kind of see where it needs to go. And there's a little bit to adjusting some of this stuff. Pretty right. Now, part of this is if you get some weird warping with text and that sort of thing, you can also grab these points here and adjust them to help clarify some of that warping. All right, when I get it approximately where I want it, I'm going to hit enter. And that's not so bad. All right. Now, one thing that I'm going to want on there that I did prior, and I'm going to bring this down below that. All right, so you see that shading I put on there? Let's see if I can, yeah. All right, so that's where I've got the shading. I just used the brush with black and ran my layer opacity down. I made it relatively solid but soft. Ran the opacity to where I wanted it. Let me run that up. Let's see. So you can kind of see it. Okay, so there's my shadow. Just to get the curvature of the page. All right. Now the other thing that I put on there was this, just as an overview light. Let's see if about fixing this piece right here. Let's do that. There we go. All right. So what I did there in that layer, creating that layer mask, if I delete this layer mask, all right, if I delete the layer mask, I've got this shading going on, but I don't want it to extend beyond the cover itself. So the cover, which is the image that I just created and put in there, well, manipulated. I control click on it to select what's in that layer. And I make sure I'm on the layer with the shading and create a mask. And it only applies the shading where that mask is then put. All right. So this up here is actually a couple of different shading effects. It's just let's check that out. Turn it on. The opacity. That's what I have. I have a radial gradient on here. that's darker in this area here. And then I have another one. I'm sorry, I've got one that's not radial. It's just linear. That makes it darker down in here. And then I did the radial on top of that again as this gradient overlay. And it's radial. So it gives a highlight on the part that I'm wanting to highlight. It's lesser here and darker around it. And then just, it's like adjusting my lighting.
Would you show us making that layer?
Yeah, we can do that. All right, so if I turn that layer off, I'm going to create a new layer. And let's do just a gradient layer. We can do it a couple of different ways. Okay. All right, so we've got that. Whoops. Oh, okay, it's already open. Sorry, it was on the other screen, so I didn't see it. All right, so for this gradient, again, gradient. Cancel. I'm gonna go with this. Okay, and we're gonna rotate it like that. Okay. All right. We're going to change that to soft light. All right, so that gives us our darker down here. Let's turn it off. And then we can double click on here. We double click on that, we get a layer style, and we can put the layer style right on top of that. So I'm going to go with gradient overlay. We don't want that. Actually, do the same one and just go with, instead of linear, we want to go with radial. And we want to reverse that. Like that.
Oh, I see.
It's a very involved process.
Yeah, a little bit. And we can make that, instead of normal, we'll make that soft light also.
This is all in the same layer, not the mask.
Yeah, that's in the same layer.
Neat.
So I'm actually liking the other one better. What did I do different in this one? Soft light, radial, inverted. We've got a 56% masking in there. Okay.
I think that you chose two different gradient styles because it looks like on your first gradient you went from black to transparent, but you're going from black to white on the one that you just made, which is causing
On
everything
the
to look
first one
brighter.
or the first one or the second one?
The one that you are
First one.
currently working on is black to white, but the first one you made was
Right.
black to transparent.
There we go. Let's go here. That was transparent too. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Professor, I think it'd be helpful next time if you recorded some of these, I guess you could say tutorials on how to do them.
I've actually got this running on OBS right now, so if you want me to throw it in the Discord, I can after we're done.
Sure.
Do it.
That would be nice.
Or if you could email it to Nakoff so he could put it on the D2L.
Yeah. There you go.
We could do that. All right.
It's just helpful just to have it for reference.
Well, certainly. And I actually would like to do some of this stuff and get some of this pre-recorded for next semester.
Oh yeah, no, that would really help out a lot.
In line of doing with all of this, doing all of this online.
You don't know how long this is going to last for.
Correct. And so if we're going to teach online, putting these things out here in a similar manner to some of the other courses that are already taught online, period, without any in-class at all, I would like to build all of those steps. But yeah, it looks like that may be the direction some of this is going anyway. So yeah, so was this work for you guys? You guys got something out of that? All right.
Yeah, that's neat.
Okay.
Yeah, I may need to refer to that video for the gradient completely, but I got the warping generally.
The warping is quite easier nowadays. Yes. Okay. Back in 2000, that was not as simple as that.
I can imagine.
Okay. So, any questions on that or any of this?
What did you Google for the templates?
For
like the base image of a comic on a table.
Oh, let me see if I've got where that came up even. I just Googled magazine magazine cover template, I believe is what I did, and I don't know where it went. I mean, I thought
I can look for that. When I tried to Google for like magazine on a table, I got like a flat statistical table of magazine covers.
Right. Let's see. This MAGAZINE. This mock-up. Okay, magazine mock-up template.
Ah.
So let's see. There's some on Behance. The Template Monster might have been one that I got from. As a matter of fact, it may have come from Template. No, I did Template Monster, and then it has a whole bunch of places to get these, and each of these has. So Template Monster is where it came from, but there's a bunch on here. It has different sites with different options, and it's free PSDs to get them. Yeah, so there's a boatload.
Is that just the .com?
I'm sorry?
Monster just like...
Yeah, it's templatemonster.com.
Okay, cool.
Template monster is all one word.
Here, I pulled it up, so I'll just post it in the chat.
Oh, here, I can bring it over here. Sorry. This is the template monster. 50 magazine PSD mockups. And these are all different sites that you can go to. This will take you to different places. I believe it's different sites. It may be all their own stuff, but
That one with a transparent background. That's handy.
yes, it could be.
It was like the very first one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
like that one. Yeah. And what that's doing is really just showing you the shading involved.
That's cool.
Yeah. So. Okay. So when. All right. Let me show you that then. When you get these things, if I needed to change or add something to this, if I needed to add something to this cover, I can go to that layer, and I did this in the very beginning, and I didn't need to. But if I double click that layer, it opens up that file, so we can throw something on there, like let's do this. Okay, so if I make an edit to this thing, like this, and I just hit File, Save. All right, and I go back. That's not what I want. It's on there in place. So you could put a bunch of text on the cover of whatever, and it's already adjusted. It still stays adjusted. So you can create this thing. If you build this by yourself, from scratch with a photograph of a magazine or whatever that you took, you could put it out there and allow other people to purchase it even, or to use that as a template. Or you could just use it yourself, and anything that you produce, you throw out there. You've got these templates built, and it's a quick mock-up of before anything goes to print. People know what it looks like at that point before a whole lot of money and time is spent on it. So, yeah, that's part of a smart object. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really neat.
All right. All right. So about our final project,
The rubric exactly.
What are you know what?
Oh, that would actually be really, really helpful. Like
Um,
if you made like a little rubric.
What you're expecting from
um, actually, I wanted to say that came up in the other class too. So,
what, a rubric? Rubric?
um,
Isn't this pretty close to what we would have done in class, like with like a
this is absolutely what we would have done in class,
yeah,
except I've been dragging my feet for years, trying not to go digital.
yeah.
And it's not that I
Here we
didn't want to go.
are.
It's
Took a
not that I
virus.
right. It's the viral force. I didn't. It's not that I didn't want to go digital, as much as I wanted people to embrace and understand where it came from prior. It's very similar to the way that I generally teach intro, like the CAD. If I
Mhm.
teach an intro to CAD class, we start off with a T-square and paper and triangles, so that people understand and appreciate what the computer is actually doing for them and what it's freeing them from. Once you ink an image and you screw it up, you're pretty much starting over. Okay, so
Yeah,
when
I
you
felt that. I felt that on my assignment.
yeah, so being able to print is also an issue that, depending on what job you wind up with, you may very well be dealing with a lot of output in print, be it posters or or brochures or whatever. So that's one of the reasons I've continued to maintain the print aspect and to be able to cut mat for and to be able to you know understand what the physical aspect of it is and what has to be overcome as you send this really cool image out that needs to be produced. What are you asking them actually to do? And now, you know, by producing and printing all of these things, you understand what it takes to do that, and you can empathize with those poor people as they have to do that every day. Okay, so not that that's when I say poor people, I don't mean yeah. You can empathize with what they have to do. That's all. So yes, this is very much like what we would have done anyway. It just would have been a lot more in print, and
I brought that up just because I was wondering if you had an existing rubric that we could use, if just like instead of physical, it's just PowerPoint slides.
Yeah,
I,
I was
I
wondering about that
don't
too.
have, I do not have in hand an actual rubric, but I will actually, what you guys voted on was something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is it
that
anything
description,
goes kind of situation?
well, the description that I had there, let's see. The option one in the discussion, design a PowerPoint presentation that showcases your comic book character and the steps that you went through to develop it. This may include
So just
everything from your initial sketches to all your finished work. It also may include work that you may not have furnished or turned in for any of your projects thus far. This must include your character sheet, environment, cover, and sequence projects in the presentation. The presentation is to be given as if you were pitching your comic book designs to a comic book publisher that is seeking new characters and stories to produce.
considering the comic book industry is going under.
Well, you got to remember the comic book industry. Well, Marvel isn't, but
DC as
then
well.
again, that's digital. Um, yeah, I've heard that they've had some issues lately, which
Doesn't
would,
like.
yeah, it's they've been on the brink of disaster a couple of times. So we'll see where they go with all this viral stuff kicking in. So anyway, the presentations, as if you're pitching, the working files for each project need to be turned in with the PowerPoint presentation files. Each presentation is limited to no more than 5 minutes. So do you need more rubric than that, or what are you thinking, Kaylin?
I guess just about like how many slides you prefer type thing would also help. Just so people have a basis of like how much should I have within 5 minutes to talk about.
Like any basis that we might need to cover, like the developmental stages or things like
Okay.
that.
Do
All
we
right.
need to cover the story of our character again? Or
Right,
like,
is-
kind of like the beginning?
Just so you know. Oh, I would. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Minimum 3 slides, maximum 10.
Okay.
Because that's, if it was 10 slides, it's only 30. It's only 30 seconds a slide, right?
If you put that on D2L,
so is this covering artwork or is this covering character concept?
Okay.
Like, where's the emphasis?
I always kind of left that to everybody else, to you guys to decide that.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes.
I'm thinking. Sorry.
I've
I
had
thought
my
you were
mic cut out
ignoring us,
because of internet
Professor.
problems.
Oh, you got sick of us.
And I've got you guys. I got you guys pulled over to the other side, so it looks like I'm looking at my other screen, which I am.
Okay.
I don't want to limit that. Honestly, Seth, because some people have more strength in their sketching than they might in their character development, and vice versa. Some people may need to emphasize their character development more than their sketching, because there's, the sketching is, kind of non-existent, or not as, they might not feel as strong about it. So I wouldn't want to limit someone to that. But what I would prefer it have more emphasis in how you got to where you are with your character, than as opposed to the character storyline. Okay, because I'm not worried about at this point how Luke was conceptual, or how he was born, and then how Luke dies. I'm more interested in
Becomes a space ghost.
So
where
it's
where he
process.
came from. Yeah, the
Development
process.
process.
What did you go through to come up with Luke Skywalker? Right. So that's definitely more process description than background storyline. Because first off, I would like a general description of the character storyline. So I'm not trying to backpedal. I'm just trying to say, but something relatively short and concise. That for Luke Skywalker, it is Luke grew up on a desert planet and then is involved in an adventure to find out who he really is.
So you just want a brief synopsis
That's
instead
it.
of just like a long thing.
Right. Just that very general description, not all the steps that he's going through to get to where he's found out who he was, who he is. Because that could take years. In fact, the people that do the comics, they start the first bunch and they may not have any idea where it's going to end up, right? It's kind of like James Bond. You just keep doing more editions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Does it have to be done in PowerPoint? I don't know if somebody's already asked this. Can it be done in Prezi or something?
Sure.
Okay.
Do that.
Something I wanted to ask, as someone whose high school only used like Google Chrome slides and stuff, coming into PowerPoint and seeing it does have nice design options, is it going to hurt our grade? I know you talked against using them for the entire thing, but if a couple of our slides utilize some of the design options they allow, is that going to hurt our grade at all?
No.
Okay.
No. And what kind of limitations are you thinking on the design side with like PowerPoint or whatever?
There's oh no, I like PowerPoint's way better than Google Slides.
Okay.
But for some of them where it's just kind of like here's a couple images,
Yeah.
not much that I can really do with them because there's a lot of information on them. There is some nice design options that I wanted to use. I just wanted to make sure it was okay to use some, not on
Sure.
every single one, but like.
And does Google see? I'm not familiar with the Google Slides aspect.
It's god awful.
Bad.
I've used it too.
Bad.
Yeah.
Okay, can you bring in a background image?
No.
You do
What
that
kind of?
that much. Yeah.
That's about it. Okay, so if you built your pretty background image, you know what I'm saying, with all your stuff and used everything for that, that's okay by me.
No, I mean, I'm using PowerPoint now, and it's way
Okay.
better than what Slides is. Like, so I was like, whoa, there's like stuff I can do with pictures now.
Yeah. So I prefer people not use JPEGs as a background, and
Mhm.
just, I mean, not as a background in PowerPoint. I'm saying opening up Paint and sharing it, as their background behind them. This is my JPEG. You could even, if you're building it in Paint, that's problematic. We've
Mhm.
got Photoshop and Illustrator to build whatever style you want. So create to your heart's content. Just remember, I wouldn't do any more than 10 images. Consistency can be key. So when you start building your stuff, rough in what you want in each of the slides, then figure out what images you think you want to include in each of the slides, then figure out how you think you might want to start laying those out and what text type you're going to use.
Yeah.
I would use one, if you can get away with it, if you can do it, one text font, not just one size, but I'm saying one text font through the entire thing is consistency. Okay, you're getting a good consistent thing, and it needs to be legible. We don't want to use Caldora's handwriting font for all of your stuff in your presentation because nobody's going to be able to read it. I just made up that name. I don't know who's handwriting things, but there's a lot of scripty fonts that are, or party fonts and things that are kind of not really terribly legible. So those are the things that I think are kind of important when you're putting a presentation together.
And we use Comic Sans for the entire presentation.
I kind of prefer you didn't.
Comic Sans.
But if you have something that you're emphasizing, like as
Sans.
if you have a let's say you have a picture of your character going, just a face shot, and then you put in a bubble that said something about sketching is important, in his speech bubble, that relates to your presentation, and it's in the section that would have a little bit more about your sketches and stuff. Putting it in Comic Sans and using a little bit of bold on Comic Sans to emphasize important or whatever, or, to make it a little more creative, you can use Comic Sans for something like that. Sure.
Okay.
But, you may want to use that font just to stand out from the rest of the more standard font that you're using consistently throughout your presentation. You're using that font to draw emphasis or attention to that comic bubble, that speech bubble. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a bit of a question. Could we use like our sketches to kind of make up the background?
Certainly.
Like it led up to that image?
Certainly. Yep. So you can do flyovers, you can do all, rollovers or all kinds of stuff. If you wanted to build a web page for it, you could build a web page for it. It's your presentation. If somebody's good at web page building and you want to play to your strengths, that's fine. It's your presentation. So I just need all the source files so that I can view things in post as I'm going through. So don't forget, you also want to spend some of this time fixing, editing, adding anything you might want to your projects. They're due on the same day. So I'll need to get all those sorts of things squared away. And I'll need you to tell me that you made changes to them so that I don't have to go through, man, that's several hundred different pieces looking to see if you made a change or an update, right? I need to.
Did we turn them into you via the OneDrive folders to show that we made changes to ours?
Yes. And send me an email that says, I made an update to my cover. I made an update to, whatever, so that it draws attention to me to give you credit, okay? So that I can go look at it immediately and do that.
Gotcha. Cool. All right.
Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. Well, guys, we're going to taper down a little bit in our, the next week or so, just because we're finishing things up. We will still meet for class, but I will. I'm gonna kind of hope people bring issues they're having or questions that they have to class, and we can answer those.
Yeah, I'll probably try and get an idea of what my presentation is supposed to be.
Okay.
If we get to making the rubric by then, I may have questions about it, but we'll see.
Certainly, and I will try and put a rubric.
May have some texture questions myself involving Photoshop. Still new to the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll have to see once I actually dive in on PowerPoint, but I might have questions about the use of that.
Okay. And that's fine. Feel free to ask. Bring the questions to class. That's fine by me. Not a problem. If I don't know, I don't know. I'll let you know that. But we'll work through everything as much as we can that you bring. Cool.
All right, that's all, folks.
All right. If anybody else has any questions, peace. Hang around and ask. Otherwise, we're good to go.
Bye.
Hope y'all have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Me too.
Sorry.
You all Wednesday, if not before. We got some things in chat. I need to look at those. Sorry, I haven't
Thank you.
chat up.
I think some of them are talking about my dog.
Mm-hmm. Dog up.
Sorry.
That's funny. Yep, that's true. Yeah, that's funny. All right. Well,
thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. We'll see you Wednesday.
Have a good day, Professor.
Enjoy.